It took months of silence, stories going around behind closed doors, and a lot of talk online before Pastor Lovy Elias's wife finally spoke out. Everything in the church world is in shock about what she said. From claims that they were cheating on each other to shocking lies about their marriage, no one saw this coming. Everything changes now that I know this. You thought you knew everything about Prophet Lovy and his perfect home life, right? The next thing we're going to show you will blow your mind and make you question everything you thought you knew. It's hard to find a famous preacher who has captivated audiences as much as preacher Lovy Elias. Known for his accurate predictions, attractive personality, and connections to Hollywood's top people, Lovy has grown his ministry beyond the pulpit. He now has fans on Instagram, YouTube, and even among Grammy-winning acts. But there are a lot of questions in his personal life that are hidden behind the strong sermons and well-organized Instagram feed. For many years, Lovy has been the center of attention. His quick rise from making music to being a prophetic giant. One person has stayed mostly quiet through it all though, his wife. Up until now, at age 38, Mrs. Lovy Elias has finally spoken out, and what she said backs up what many people have thought for years. The whispers and stories about cheating, splitting up, being manipulated, and even having children without telling anyone. She's no longer denying them. In fact, she's agreeing with what was said, and what she said is shocking, upsetting, and for some people very upsetting. Here in today's video we're going to go into detail about what Pastor Lovy Elias's wife said, how it fits with other claims, and what it means for his ministry going forward. You will hear the exact things Mrs. Elias said that proved the rumors that had been going around for months. People who work at Revelation Church are now talking about the marriage behind closed doors. These shocking findings have shocking links to past scandals involving spiritual abuse and manipulation. Isn't it crazy that someone else has joined the conversation? This may put Love's image at greater risk than ever. Here's where things get interesting. A lot of churches talk about grace, but when the attention is on them, few leaders ever face accountability. Hold on tight, because this story isn't just about a bad marriage. It's about what happens when a preacher gets involved in the same kind of scandal he used to call out in other people. Let's start. Before the horoscopes, the scandals, and the packed Sunday services, there was Lovy Elias. His name was once linked to African music royalty. Lovy was born into a singing family in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and grew up in Kenya. He and his brother were in the hugely popular band The Long Bass. Their songs went to the top of the charts all over East Africa and won many awards, solidifying their place in the history of pop culture. Lovy became famous, but that wasn't the end of her story. Moving from the club stage to the pulpit after moving to the United States was a trip that got both strange looks and praise. By the time he changed his name to Pastor Lovy Elias, he said he had a supernatural experience with God that had changed his life. All of a sudden, he wasn't just a past pop star. The preacher was sent to lead a new group of Christians through the Los Angeles-based Revelation Church of Jesus Christ. This is where things get interesting. Unlike most pastors, Lovy's congregation quickly drew in famous people with a lot of power, and even athletes. His YouTube sermons, clips of predictions coming true, and famous attendees like Blac Chyna, who said he changed her spiritual life, made him famous all over the world. Not only the word but also the name caught people's attention. Soon Lovy wasn't just seen as a priest, but also as a celebrity's spiritual guide. With Hollywood right outside his door and thousands of viewers every week from all over the world, he became more powerful. People on social media shared a picture of a strong, godly guy with a loving wife standing next to him. We thought that was all. While Pastor Lovy was getting praise for his gifting and charisma, rumors began to spread about his personal life. There were rumors of marital problems, living arrangements between the couple, and claims that his wife was being kept out of the public eye on purpose, not by chance. That's where the mystery got even stranger. Why was his wife, the woman who had been with him from the start, so rarely seen in public during his ministry? Could you tell me why she didn't show up in many pictures, interviews, or even church events? If some former sources said that her silence wasn't just personal but also planned, what was their point? We didn't know the answers to these questions until now, because what she recently said in public in a quiet but clear voice has broken many people's idealized picture of their relationship. Now I understand what it means to say, behind every great man is a story untold. But what did she say? Why does it have anything to do with cheating, lying, and a long-kept secret? Stay tuned for part 2, where we break down her real words and explain why some people say they took years to come together. Pastor Lovy's wife was the mysterious woman in the background for many years. She never went on stage with him, preached at women's events, or appeared in live streams, which is different from most famous preachers' wives. It was clear that she wasn't there. It became one of the most important questions for people who have been with Revelation Church for a long time. She didn't say anything as the church grew in size, power, and fame, but everyone else did. Not long ago the silence ended, and what she said was not only surprising but also very sad. Many people already thought what Pastor Lovy's wife said when she gave a short interview online that was quickly taken down but not before being filmed by both fans and critics. As you say, I've heard the reports. I do understand what was said. People don't know how long I've been living with the truth. I'm not here to blame, but I'm bored with this act. That's right. She didn't say who it was. She didn't talk about every single thing. But she didn't say anything to stop the rumors either. She admitted that she knew about affairs and that other women had contacted her directly. What broke her heart the most was that she knew how it affected her as a religious woman. It was taught to me that the best thing for a pastor's wife to do is to wait it out and pray. But the quiet turned into resentment, and the resentment turned into silence. People went crazy over what she said online. A lot of people rushed to her defense and called her strong, loyal, and patient. Some people, though, asked why now? What changed? What finally made her speak up? This is where things start to make sense. A lot of people who used to go to the church and even some former female leaders at Revelation Church started to speak out in support of her story. Some even said that the culture of the church pushed people to keep leadership ties secret, especially if it could hurt the prophet's anointing or image. A source who did not want to be named said, "It wasn't said, but it was understood. We don't ask about the marriage and we don't talk about what we know. God will bless us if we take care of him." Now that his wife has finally spoken, the subject has changed. It's no longer just about a marriage. It's about a possible way to keep quiet. Just when people thought things couldn't get worse, she told them she wasn't the only woman who had been hurt by this. People thought things were getting worse for Pastor Lovy Elias and his wife, but then new accusations came out. And this time the claims weren't just blog posts made by unknown people. They came with proof, first-hand stories, and screenshots. Let's go back a little. A lot of women came forward after Lovy's wife said in public that she had known about the affairs and reports for a long time without denying them. Some were sneaky, posting vague things on Instagram stories that made it look like they were being used by men of God. Some were much more direct, and one woman even said in a TikTok that she had deleted it. "We were all lied to. I'm no longer ashamed though. What took place between the teacher and me? That wasn't serving God. It was dishonest of them." We don't know her name, but her voice is already being heard on secret forums and leaked audio spaces. Pastor Lovy was seen traveling abroad at the same time as her claims, sometimes with ministry staff but not with his wife. She wasn't the only one. At least 2 other women, who say they used to be spiritual mentors, have suggested that boundaries were crossed in a bad way. One person even said she talked to Lovy's wife directly through a secret email. Sources say that she never got a response to that email, but it was mentioned in her latest confession. "Women wrote to me. They let out all of their pain. They felt lied to. That's because I wasn't sure how to deal with my own pain, let alone theirs." Many people, both followers and critics of Revelation Church, were shocked by this shocking statement. Some people praised her honesty. Others started to demand that Lovy and the church leaders who may have helped hide what happened be held responsible. That's when people who used to work for Revelation Church started coming out. One former member of the media team who worked closely with the live streams and private Zoom prophecy sessions said that there were tight rules about filming angles, not asking about Lovy's personal life, and not tagging his wife unless told to. She said everything was about protecting the image. "We were told this was spiritual warfare and that any questions about his marriage were attacks from demons. But here's the catch." Another former leader said she thought Pastor Lovy had hooked up with women by pretending to be a deep spiritual mentor, but what he really did was blur the lines between spiritual closeness and emotional dependence. It's hard to confirm this claim completely, but it fits with worries that have been raised in recent years about spiritual leaders at a number of well-known churches who are said to have used their position to get into inappropriate romantic or even physical relationships with members of the congregation under the guise of mentoring. This is about more than just a marriage that is falling apart. It's about possible spiritual grooming, fuzzy lines, and a culture of silence. But wait, just when you think things couldn't get more complicated, another name comes up, a famous gospel star who is said to be friends with Lovy and may have had a bigger role in all of this than anyone knew. That's what we're going to talk about next. For now, let's talk about the name that's turning this scandal from a private marriage mess into a public ministry storm. Because when Pastor Lovy's wife spoke out, it didn't just free her, it let the floodwaters in, bringing a familiar face into the middle of it all. We don't know her name, but it's clear she's a gospel singer with close ties to both Lovy and the entertainment business. Let's get this straight. Pastor Lovy Elias's followers have noticed that there have been more famous guests at Revelation Church in Los Angeles over the past 2 years. Sports stars, rappers, movie stars, and even gospel artists went to the church. This was part of its cool upscale appeal. One of the gospel artists was seen a lot, both in services and behind the scenes. She was invited to speak at special women's nights and was seen having private conversations with Lovy during leadership retreats. But that wasn't what caught people's attention. What did was how well she seemed to know Love's personal schedule, his tastes, and his private problems, things that his own wife had never talked about in public. And when the prophet's wife finally spoke, she didn't name names.
But when someone tries to comfort your husband more than you do, when they know his pain better than you do, you start to question them, she said. And when no one answers, you already know the truth. That quote hit hard, especially after fans put together photos, timelines, and videos showing that the gospel singer regularly traveled with the ministry, joined live prayer calls, and most notably spent a lot of time with Lovy overseas on a mission trip that his wife did not go on. A former assistant whose NDA had just ended wrote on Reddit that Lovy's gospel singer had stayed in a private guest home on his property during several ministry events. This is a space that is usually only for close family members. The assistant said, it wasn't just ministry, she was there all the time. Not his wife but her when Prophet was stressed or needed a safe place to go. This may seem like a coincidence, but there's more. A second whistleblower, who said they were from the church's finance team, said that ministry funds were being used to pay for things that didn't seem to have anything to do with operations or outreach, like flights and hotel stays that happened during the singer's tour dates. Receipts, matching flight logs, and social media breadcrumbs make for a story that's hard to ignore. And when Pastor Love's wife was asked directly if she thought this gospel figure had anything to do with her marriage falling apart, she said there are women who call it ministry when really it's just emotional attachment dressed up as service. And when a man of God lets that happen, the enemy doesn't have to do anything else. Wow. Think about that for a second. This wasn't about rumors anymore, it was a spiritual rebuke. It was aimed not only at Lovy, but also at the woman who many now think had an emotional, maybe inappropriate relationship with the prophet while his wife sat at home quietly. But wait, there's more. This gospel singer hasn't said a word about the growing controversy that links her name to the prophet's broken marriage. Her Instagram is still full of motivational quotes and pictures from her ministry, but she hasn't said a word about it, and her silence is speaking louder than anything else. Before you jump to conclusions though, there's one more link we need to find. It turns out that this isn't the first time Pastor Lovy has been linked to a scandal involving women in ministry. So we've seen the whole thing, from Pastor Lovy's wife finally speaking out to claims of emotional betrayal, spiritual manipulation, and even a gospel figure at the center of the rumors. But there's one more thing we need to know. Has this happened before? This may come as a surprise, but if you go far enough back in Pastor Lovy Elias's history, you'll find whispers that sound eerily familiar. They come from a voice that many people thought had been silenced for good. Years ago, before Lovy Elias became the famous prophet and leader of Revelation Church, there was a woman who was only known by her ministry name, Sister Naomi. She used to be a strong supporter and spiritual daughter of Lovy's early online ministry, but her tone changed a lot after a fight behind the scenes that was never made public. In a 2017 Facebook Live that has since been deleted, Sister Naomi warned, "Some of these men you call prophets, they know how to get into your soul. It's not the Holy Spirit, it's because they study your weakness and call it insight. That doesn't heal, now that's power." There were no names dropped at the time. People in the inner group, on the other hand, were already putting the pieces together. She talked about having private calls with leaders that turned into counseling meetings that crossed the line, and spiritual daughters who felt used, confused, and thrown away afterward. Things are happening the same way again in 2025. But why didn't anyone pay attention? Since the stage was getting bigger, it was brighter. Famous people were writing about Revelation Church, and when you're famous, the truth can get pushed to the bottom of the heap. But now that his wife made her emotional admission and more women have come forward with accusations, the past is coming back to haunt him and the patterns can no longer be ignored. Don't forget what's at stake. Pastor Lovy Elias does more than teach. He's a spiritual father to tens of thousands of people, a voice that the rich and famous in Hollywood listen to, and the head of a movement that says it can heal, deliver, and change lives. What does this mean for the people he cares for if these trends are true? This is more serious than cheating on your spouse or a bad marriage. This is about holding people in power accountable when they cross moral, financial, or emotional lines. It's also about spiritual leadership.
Some people support Lovy by saying he's only human, but others want the Revelation Church leadership to make a public statement about the claims of spiritual abuse and what they are doing to make sure it doesn't happen again. Because the word is clear if nothing is done. Charisma can make you give in. But here's the real message, and it's for you, the watchers. This is a wake-up call for everyone, whether you like Lovy or are just going to watch the story. It tells us that being anointed doesn't mean we don't have to be responsible. You should never give up your sense of right and wrong for respect. And people who are in pain should never be silent. It's not the same thing. After this, where do we go? As of right now, neither Pastor Lovy Elias nor the woman at the center of the church world rumors have said anything in public. His wife, on the other hand, has let something in that might never close again. Time will tell what happens next, but trust me, we'll be there. And as the story goes on, we'll bring you the latest news, the proof, and the real people who are speaking out. There is more to this than just gossip. It's a story about faith, truth, leadership, and the flaws of the people who stand behind the podium. This story was powerful, disturbing, or made you think. Please click the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and follow to make sure you don't miss another exclusive deep dive like this one. Don't forget that this story isn't over yet.